In today's video, we'll be covering internal working models and the strange situations test. Both of these ideas come under the topic of attachment theory. This defines how the relationship between parent and infant develop depending on certain situations and parenting techniques. This will be touched upon in today's lesson. In the 1960s to 1980s, John Bowlby worked on his attachment theory. In 1969 and 1982, he named internal working models. These models define how we see ourselves, others, and our relationships with others. As mentioned, these internal working models have three key aspects. The view of the self defines how we see ourselves. This involves whether we think we are worthy of affection and care, and if we think we are capable of asking for help when we need it. The other refers to how we understand others to behave in certain situations. This is built from the way we see our parents behave with us and react to our emotions when we are children. The relationships refers to how we understand relationships should work between the self and the other. This model is used to help us navigate new relationships as we grow. A child with a present and responsive parent will develop positive models as part of their internal working model. For example, their self model will involve the belief they can ask for help and that they are worthy of affection. Their other model would represent their parent responding appropriately and caring for all of their emotions. This means that the child will expect this from other adults in their life. Finally, their relationship model would consist of a healthy and two-sided relationship. They will understand that both people's emotions must be considered and that they will be cared about. In contrast, a child with an emotionally unavailable carer, who often treats their sadness as a burden, will have a more negative internal working model. Their parent may sometimes respond appropriately to their emotions, however often does not. The child will see themselves as only sometimes worthy of affection, and they will feel they cannot always ask for help. The other model will represent someone who often responds inappropriately, ignores the child, or appears too busy to care for them. And the relationship will also hold many expectations around when support is or isn't warranted. The Strange Situations test was developed and published by Ainsworth in 1969. It is used to understand the type of attachments children have to their parents or carers. In order to understand the Strange Situations test and what it shows, we must first understand the attachment styles that Ainsworth presented during her research. Initially, Ainsworth presented insecure attachment as a singular attachment style. However, she later divided it into two subcategories. The first of these is insecure avoidant or attachment style A. These children will not be particularly upset or worried during separation from their parent, but also often actively avoid interaction with their parent when they are reunited, as they expect their parent's response to be inappropriate. The second is insecure resistant or type C. These children become upset or distressed when they are separated from their parent, as they feel unsure if their parent will return, or if they do, whether they will appropriately comfort the child. They don't believe they are worthy of affection, and they struggle to comfort themselves. Another form of attachment outlined by Ainsworth is secure attachment, or type B. These children see their parents as always available for comfort and affection, and they see themselves as worthy of this care. They are often upset at separation, however are not panicked, and find comfort in the knowledge that their parent will return. An additional attachment style named by Ainsworth is disorganized attachment, or type D. These children will have disorganized and disorientated behaviors and perform actions which are incomplete or directed towards nothing or no one. These children are often those who have suffered abuse or severe maltreatment in their childhood. They will be uncertain whether they want contact and affection and will often use themselves as their source of comfort. So, what actually is the Strange Situations test? It is a test used on 9 to 18-month-old infants that allows us to see which attachment style they have with their parent. It also allows us to analyze the behaviors of children in these categories. It's completed in stages and takes part in a room set up with 2 chairs, a table, and a play area. Let's look at a short summary of the stages. At the start of the test, the parent sits in a chair whilst the infant plays with the toys in the room. After a short while, a stranger enters the room. They sit with the mother and they have a conversation. The stranger then eventually interacts and plays with the child. Soon after, the mother leaves the room. The stranger stays with the child and continues interacting with them. After this, the mother re-enters and comforts the child if needed before playing with them. In this time, the stranger also leaves. After another short period of time, the mother leaves again. The child is left alone for a short while. The stranger then re-enters and attempts to comfort the child if needed. They then play with the child again. The mother then also re-enters after a short interval, and the stranger leaves. For the last of the test, the mother and infant remain together and interact with each other. In total, the test takes just over 20 minutes. The entire test is recorded and subsequently coded by professionals. Coding categorizes the child's behaviors and helps us understand which attachment style the child falls into. So now we know how the test works. How does it relate to internal working models? As I mentioned before, the Strength Situations test helps us to identify attachment styles. However, it also shows us the different forms internal working models can take. Insecure avoidant attached children will have an IWN, which represents the self as unworthy of affection, an other model which represents others as responding inappropriately, and a relationship model which represents there being limitations and expectations which restrict the affection given and received. Insecure resistant children will have an IWM which shows the self as unworthy of affection, the other as being inconsistent and often not giving attention, and the relationship as pessimistic, in which their negative emotions cannot be made better by others. Securely attached children will have a more positive IWM, with the self represented as worthy of affection, the other as a positive and secure base, and the relationship as comforting and safe. Disorganized children, however, will see the self as the main or only source of comfort, the other as confusing or one to be avoided, and the relationship as unreliable and maybe unsafe. Mary Ainsworth's research, which led to the development of the SST and attachment types, was conducted in Uganda in 1954-55 and in Baltimore in 1963-67. She observed the behavior of children both when they were separated from their mothers and when they were reunited. She found that a lot more behavioral differences were observable during the children's reunions with their parents. Another interesting and relevant piece of research is Donald Winnicott's Good Enough Mothering. He explained that he believed it is important for mothers to be emotionally available. However, he saw part of this as allowing children to experience tolerable frustrations. This means waiting a short amount of time before attending to the child's needs in order to allow them to develop a tolerance of waiting and also to increase the pleasure of the inevitable satisfaction.